In the chaos of revolution and civil war, the new state was born, the Soviet Union, a one-party imperialistic state under the Bolshevik Party. Its future would be shaped not by ideology alone, but by a ruthless struggle for power. For absolute power, similar to that of an emperor. The rise of Stalin and Bolshevik terror contributed to the creation of the Second Russian Bolshevik Empire with a new name, a new emperor, and the forced transformation of the population into slaves. In the summer of 1918, Bolsheviks of Soviet Russia were shaken by violence. Moisey Uritsky, head of the Petrograd secret police Cheka, was assassinated. At the end of August, an attempt was made on the life of Vladimir Lenin. The Bolshevik response was brutal. The Red Terror began, the campaign of political repression carried out by the Cheka. Thousands were executed. Many more are imprisoned. Historians still debate the total death toll, but its impact was undeniable. Fear became a tool of governance. By the early 1920s, Lenin's health was failing. A series of strokes left him increasingly incapacitated. His ability to speak and govern deteriorated rapidly. On the 21st of January 1924, Lenin died. His death left behind a dangerous vacuum and no clear successor. Among the Bolsheviks, several figures competed for influence. Leon Trotsky, the architect of the Red Army's victory, stood out. Charismatic and brilliant, he seemed a natural successor. But he was also feared. Meanwhile, a quieter figure was building power behind the scenes. In 1922, Joseph Stalin became General Secretary of the Communist Party. At first, the role seemed administrative. Officially, the General Secretary controlled the Communist Party. Since the Bolshevik Party held a monopoly on political power in a one-party state, the General Secretary exercised de facto executive control over the Soviet government. And Stalin used the party monopoly to control appointments and place loyalists across Russia. He formed a temporary alliance with Lev Kamenev and Grigory Zinoviev to isolate Trotsky. By 1927, Trotsky was expelled from the party. By 1929, he was exiled from the Soviet Union. Stalin's former allies soon faced the same fate. Kamenev and Zinoviev were removed from power and expelled from the Bolshevik Party. Next came Nikolai Bukharin's turn, once a close supporter. Stalin had overthrown potential competitors without a shadow of a doubt. The revolution was devouring its own leaders. In March 1921, after the collapse of the Russian economy under war communism, Lenin's new economic policy allowed limited market activity. But Stalin saw it as a temporary compromise. In 1928, after the Soviet grain procurement crisis, he launched a radical shift, later known as the Great Break, also known as the Great Turn, which included the forced collectivization of agriculture, rapid industrialization, and centralized economic control. Bukharin warned it would lead to the military feudal exploitation of the peasantry, but he was ignored. By the end of the 1920s, Stalin stood alone at the top. He had outmaneuvered rivals, controlled the government, and reshaped the Soviet system. The foundations of a new kind of rule were laid, reproducing the old principles of absolute authority of the Russian Empire, a hyper-centralized government with a hierarchical bureaucracy that concentrated all power in its hands, the total enslavement of the population, the General Secretary of the Communist Party as a semi-sacred figure whose authority could not be questioned, and the priority of administrative power over legal institutions. Moreover, Stalin used old Russian imperial principles to consolidate authority, the omnipotence of special organs of political repression, such as the Cheka and the Joint State Political Directorate, OGPU, powerful ideological propaganda, total militarization, and the creation of a privileged new party aristocracy. In essence, Joseph Stalin restored imperial power in a more brutal form and became emperor under the new title of General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Party of Bolsheviks.